Welcome back to the show today. We are joined once again here today with Jason Bohn. He's the COO and Clinical Director of Adolescence, the Anxiety Center at Renew Counseling Center. There are a lot of titles there. Jason, introduce yourself to our listeners, please. I can tell you the website is anxietycenterkc.com.
Yeah, so I'm a father of four, husband. I work with adolescents that are struggling with anxiety, depression, school avoidance, phobias, that kind of stuff. I have a great team here at the Anxiety Center, and we just really looking to help adolescents and their parents.
Perfect. Well, you've done a great job of that. I know you say you're a Gen X, postmodern, question everything type of person who has to be blessed with parents who actually skin orphans and pray for food and answer their callings and sacrifice so much. Can you just give us a little detail on that?
Yeah, I think we've lost kind of the value of sacrifice, and sometimes it's hard in this world with so much, so many options and so many conveniences to recognize that when we sacrifice for somebody, we're actually showing that we care about them. They're valid. We're validating them as a person. But it just shaped me to just know that even when I don't think things are going to work between our institutions and our governments, that, you know what, it's going to be okay. We can find a way through this and help our families grow strong.
Wow, wonderful. So again, we're welcoming Jason Bohn to the show here today. He's been on with us before, and especially today in particular, we're going to talk about this anxiety out there that a lot of us have, may share. He can help you with a lot. So anxietycenterkc.com, and again, he's the clinical director over there. So log on to the website. You can get more information about him and his company. In the meantime, I know you have some specific notes that you sent over to our producer. So would you mind giving us a little insight as into what you want to talk about for today's show in particular?
Sure. I'd like to talk about skill deficiency versus boundary testing. And this is one of those things where all of us have told our child or our teen to do something and it doesn't get done. What do you end up doing? How do you end up handling that? Do you repeat the command? Do you eventually add in a threat about the consequences? If this doesn't work, what do you do next? Russell Barkley is an expert in ADHD and defiant teens, and he's with Arthur Robin, and they've developed this command compliance cycle that they outline in their book. They suggest that many parents give the initial command 3 to 7 times. If there isn't compliance, in other words, the task doesn't get done, the parent threatens when repeating the command 1 to 3 more times. If there still isn't compliance, the parent is in a tough situation. All right. Obviously, they can enforce the threatened consequences, but that still doesn't get the task done if that's schoolwork or homework or something like that. Yeah. They can use force, become aggressive, which happens to get the task completed, or they can acquiesce, give up, avoid trying to interact, decide this task isn't worth the battle. Sadly, each of these outcomes reinforces or teaches, both sides of the interaction, the parent and the child, something. The teen might learn how far they can push boundaries, and the parent might learn to avoid giving their teen commands or asking them things, but end up resentful and feeling powerless to manage their own household. And we talked last week about the dark side of avoidance, and you can find more about that at boldparenting.online, where I'm putting all of these resources.
Beautiful. Well, we're interested in hearing more about it and learning more about it. So let's continue the conversation for today. And just to point out, the best form of contact for you, would you mind just going over that with our listeners?
Yeah, I would love to have them go to boldparenting.online. I'm putting these resources. Perfect. You can get a hold of me. So boldparenting.online. Prepping it, putting these shows, putting some other resources there for parents.
So that's breathing deeply and slowing down, observing your thoughts and feelings, listening to your values, deciding on actions and doing them. That's the bold lineup in a sense, right?
Actually, yeah, and that's exactly why we called this, bold parenting program. It's about, and it's about understanding yourself, your teen, and what your parenting needs to look like if your teen's struggling. We're going to revisit this command compliance cycle regularly as we connect additional tools and resources, how to improve which is what everybody wants, the compliance side after giving a command. But today I want to kind of focus on thinking about how your teen's response to your command, what comes up in mind, what are you thinking about as a parent? Regularly, we kind of think of our commands as the borders of our kingdoms and compare any non-compliance to like enemy spies testing our boundaries, looking for cracks or weaknesses in our parenting to be exploited. But boundary testing is literally a developmental process teens have to go through. It means they all do it. They need to understand boundaries, both external and internal, really to make it in this world today. So it's very possible they are doing this, not complying on purpose. But, you know, a fundamental principle of psychology is that every behavior serves a purpose. So what purpose is your teen's non-compliance serving? Developmentally, they might be testing boundaries, yes, but they might also be serving their self-concept or how they think about themselves, which gets easily damaged in this world today. Share a story. I was asked to tutor this gifted young lady. She has AP classes, pre-med expectations. It's actually a lot like a lot of the young people that end up coming to my group, who was failing high school algebra. She wasn't completing or turning in her work, which was, you know, clearly a form of non-compliance. So once I started working with her, it quickly became apparent that she did not have her multiplication tables memorized, you know, which is a fundamental principle of algebra. She wasn't completing or turning in her work because she knew that she would fail and chose to save face by not completing the work rather than to be considered less than gifted. Luckily, her parents chose to view the problem as a skill deficiency instead of boundary testing. They saw themselves much more like a gardener, not a carpenter. They understood that there were elements of their daughter's environment that they could control, adding fertilizer, by seeking out a tutor, and other elements they couldn't control, such as aptitude. And so that was a clear example of a family that chose to look at something as a skill deficiency instead of testing their boundaries or questioning their parenting. Is that making sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and just to highlight the other side of it, a gardener is obviously adding resources and helping their young person. But if you think of yourself as a carpenter parent, you might believe that there's a right way and a wrong way to parent. And if we do it just right, if we chisel our children just the right way, so that means we follow the right rules, we sign up for the best after school activities, we feed them only GMO-free foods. We send them to top-notch preschool so they can start prepping their SAT, ACT scores at 3, dress them in the right clothes, adhere to the proper screen time limits down to the minute, cover our walls with stunning family portraits, manage to fold and get all our chores done, laundry done on the same day. Then, we believe, a carpenter parent believes we carve them into healthy, secure, successful adults, and we'll all get our happy ending wrapped up in a pretty bow. It really doesn't frequently work that way. And
I was going to say that. I didn't want to bust your bubble, but I was hoping you were on the same page as saying, yeah, it does, not all the time. It's possible. I won't take that away for those type of parents, but chances are it's not going to turn out the exact way you planned. Right. I agree.
Yeah, and according to developmental psychologist Allison Gopnik, gardener parents are different from carpenter parents, and they don't see their kids as a blank slate just waiting for good parents to mold them properly. Rather, gardening parents are just providing plenty of sunshine, pulling out the weeds, and watching with excitement to what unfolds. So the question here today is, for the parents that are listening, is what's your parenting metaphor? And how do you think of your parenting, and how do you think about your teen, and what's your metaphor for raising a teen? And so we're going to keep diving into that a little bit as we go and apply it to the BOLD model.
Great.
So I'm
all ears.
Great. I didn't know when a commercial break was coming in or not.
You're good. Another 2 minutes. Go ahead. You're an expert. I forgot.
Well, and our BOLD parenting focuses on the O today. So for observing your thoughts and feelings, which will likely come from what kind of parent you think you are or you want to be. And BOLD is a process for making, and you'd shared it earlier, but for making wise mind decisions. And those are decisions that incorporate both how you feel about something and the most logical, rational response possible. The BOLD process is helpful for being a parent. I actually try to think through it. I had to apply some consequences to my young man this morning and tried to keep myself calm while I did that. But it's helpful for being a parent, and it is also a tool you can teach your struggling teen to help them make wise mind decisions also. So the B in BOLD stands for breathing deeply and slowing down, essentially grounding yourself to allow for a response to a situation instead of reaction to a situation. I want to try and pass on a breathing skill each week, and this week's skill is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's a great technique for rational-minded thinkers like myself. All right, it grounds us back into our senses. You simply engage your senses to focus on 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. So again, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This has been proven over and over, and lots of the families I work with love this one because it just brings them right back into the present, the place where they are, reorients them, and helps them engage with what's in front of them. And so the B in BOLD is for breathing deeply and slowing down before you react to your young person, and to teach our young people to breathe deeply, slow down before they move on to the next step. Once you slow down, you O. All right, you observe your thoughts and feelings. The young lady I was tutoring was thinking, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, and was avoiding a feeling of failure by just not doing the work. Avoidance. As a parent, I regularly think I'm failing, or how does this kid behave around others if they behave this way around me? All right, especially when they're being non-compliant. The DNAV model that I use considers this inner voice to be our advisor. Observing these thoughts and feelings then allows us space, a pause, a moment to listen to our values. So yes, I love this child even though they frustrated me. In a child's case, it is still important that I graduate, that I finish class, that I honor my mother and father. And so the value of going ahead and moving forward, and then decide on a respond, or decide to respond from their values instead of reacting to the negative thoughts and the stuff that comes up in the advisor.
Got it.
Yeah, so as you starting the process of observing your thoughts and feelings as a parent is, you kind of need to figure out what is your parenting metaphor? Are you a gardener? Are you a carpenter? Are you a prison warden? A potter? A driving instructor? All of these are parenting metaphors that are out there that people can think about. This is how I need to parent. We're gonna come back to those over the next couple weeks, but the O is about observing. What is your parenting metaphor? How do you think about what your role in this relationship with your young person is? So you start the process of observing your thoughts and feelings by figuring out what your parenting metaphor is. And it's really also important to think about your metaphor, how you think about your young person, especially your teenager. So one possible metaphor is they're on a roller coaster ride. Your job is to just stay on the platform. There's another one. They're like untrained horses. You'll have more success if you come up alongside them rather than straight at them. Another metaphor for raising teens is they're pulling on the leash. It's time to give them lots of slack, but not time to cut the cord. all of these can end up, kind of with different outcomes, different behaviors from the parent, which then in turn ends up with different responses, interactions with the young person.
Got it. Well, thank you. And at this time is when we'll take our break. Give us your best form and all forms of contact, please.
Yeah, please go to www.boldparenting.online. You can get a hold of me that way if you happen to be in the Kansas City area. And if not, there's resources for parents, and we're also working on some resources for young people to learn some of this on their own.
Perfect. All right, stand by. We'll be right back with more after the break.
Are you in need of a lifestyle change? Body Bliss by Jess can help. Jess is a
So for those of you still on the webinar,
diet approach.
I want to just put a little bit of context to the DNAV model, and you can see in the image that if you move towards what matters to you, your values, you go through these behaviors or defense mechanisms that help a young person avoid feelings, or they have masking emotions, really strong emotions that just get in the way of really knowing what they like and what they don't like. And then our goal is to move them towards becoming more open and authentic self. So engaging the discoverer, bolstering the noticer, how they feel things, gets them through that advisor realm and moves them towards strengthening that value and becoming a stronger identity.
Closure or answers from your deceased loved ones? Soar to new heights with Angel Wings and Healing Things. We have the tools to get your mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional well-being back on track. With a variety of services, including hypnosis, essential oils, sound therapy, craniosacral, energy work, mediumship, and more, there's an option for just about everyone. Take the step and become your happiest self. Visit angelwingsandhealingthings.com. Send an email to awnht@comcast.net or call 704-562-3476 to start your journey. Because remember, you are worth it. Do you have a spark to share? Do you have a creative project that you want to pass to others? How will you share it with the world? At Waking the Dream, we educate and transform, fostering personal growth for clients. Our consulting services include personal coaching sessions, chakra energy balancing, intuitive counseling, and meditation instruction. We also handle creative counseling, writing, and editing services for businesses, authors, and artists. Waking the Dream can help. Reach out to Kelly Leidig on our website, www.kellyleidig.com, or by email, kelly@kellyleidig.com. Waking the Dream, sparking the creation, fanning the flame, lighting the world. kellyleidig.com.
You're listening to In the Spotlight with Jill Nicolini on Business Talk Radio, where we take your business to the next level. And welcome back to the show today. We are talking about bold parenting with Jason Bohn. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much.
All right. So boldparenting.online is the website, correct?
Yes, it is.
And Anxiety Center KC. So let's continue the conversation. Today we're talking about skill deficiency versus boundary testing, right?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Has it made you think at all about how you're raising your young ones?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what type of parent I am. I'm like a gardener mixed with more of the, what's the other one you just said before the break? Like a hardcore disciplinary, like a...
Prison warden?
Like a prison warden, yeah. I try. Is that bad? It makes them listen, but not overall that way. But I feel like it could be a combination of all of them.
I think there are times we're going to feel all of them. I know I am putting a young person in timeout or whatever the consequences might be as they get older of taking the phones and limiting screen times or not allowing them to do. I think it's part of setting those boundaries and teaching them that you mean it.
Yeah.
When you stop enforcing those boundaries or your young person quits believing that you'll actually live up to what you said is when we see some really, really struggling families.
Yeah. Wow. Wonderful.
So moving on, the the metaphors really end up shaping how you think about some of the developmentally typical behaviors in young people. And you might see some of the developmentally typical behaviors become problem behaviors, and that because your metaphor or how you think about being a parent or a teen, you see them as problem behaviors, and or some of the problem behaviors that you see are actually typical behaviors of young people. Development means that a young person actually has to learn and master certain skills, and that's why the whole focus on today was that there's likely even if there is boundary testing, there's likely skill deficiency. Like they just don't quite know how to do what you're asking them to do, or what they need to do to get through this developmental task. And if they don't actually learn those skills, and I've got a list of them here for you, they can have arrested development. They can get stuck. They cannot move forward like their peers. That's when we can start seeing mental health issues get exacerbated, and mental health issues, biological predispositions to things, actually make these developmental tasks harder. The big ones from DBT, which is Marsha Linehan, and dialectical behavioral therapy are, first, they have to establish an identity. So a teen has to try on different things, and they have to establish an identity. Who are they going to be? Number two, they actually need to establish independence and autonomy. They need to learn how and develop the ability to be independent and act with autonomy in the world. They actually have to practice intimacy and closeness in relationships. The teen years are where they learn, is this the kind of intimacy, closeness I want for the rest of my life? Can I handle it in any way, shape, or form? So young people who end up avoiding that in relationships at their home, avoid it with relationships outside, or go to the other extreme and try to find it in physical ways or other ways. And so practicing intimacy and closeness in relationship is a developmental task of adolescence. They have to, as we all see, they have to adjust to a developing and changing body. None of us, enjoyed those years where we didn't know what we were going to look like in the mirror when we woke up in the morning. So they have to adjust to that. They have to adjust how they think about themselves. They have to adjust how they think others are thinking about them as their body changes. And then the last big one is that they actually have to adjust to their brain development. So we know there's two huge phases of brain development. One is that birth to one, that's the largest brain development in our lifetime. But the adolescent years, and those early adolescent years especially, there is a huge amount of brain development going on. And so the way they think, what they think about, their ability to think and process are changing dramatically if the environment is good, as their adolescents. So I'm going to post some of this, put some information, actually posted at boldparenting.online, a little more information on each of those developmental tasks, so you can look at that and see. Because if you tend to take, and here's where, if they're practicing their independence and it's not a harmful independence, turning on and being the prison warden at all times actually stymies that developmental task. It gets in the way of them becoming the person that they need to be. And so that's why it's so important to observe your thoughts and feelings while you're parenting, and teaching your young person to slow down and observe what they're thinking and feeling as they move forward. And that's the BOLD process.
Well, thank you so much for sharing the BOLD process with us. And we still have just 3 minutes left during the show.
Okay.
So for people reaching out to you, you work with them one-on-one? Do you do group sessions? Could you give us a little more insight into them? Sure.
As an organization, we have 13 to 15 clinicians who are kind of independent contractors under the Renew Counseling umbrella. They see individuals, couples, families, kind of your typical, what you'd think about as individual therapy or couples therapy. We also run intensive outpatient programs for adults and for adolescents that are struggling with anxiety and depression. The adults is 3 times a week, 3 hours each time. That's why it's intensive. That's over a 6-week period. The adolescent program is 4 days a week, 3 hours a day, very intensive. And so we're teaching this BOLD process kind of expanded. So we teach, somewhere around 10 breathing deeply and slowing down skills. And then we teach a lot of ways to strengthen your noticer by observing your thoughts and feelings and really being able to interpret and label those things correctly so you respond correctly to them. We work hard on helping young people figure out what matters to them. So that's working on their identity. It's strengthening their valuer so that they can make decisions based on what matters to them, not just on reacting to the world around them or these strong emotions that are coming up in anxiety and depression. And then, we really teach them. And if they've lost or missed some of these skills as they develop, such as interacting, and COVID is really harming face-to-face interaction in a lot of ways that we're not getting as much. And so we're actually teaching interpersonal skills and helping young people decide on actions that they can do to build friendships, maintain relationships, and then grow and strengthen those healthy relationships that help them continue to meet their needs and move forward in life.
Got it. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that. And that form of contact for you, would you mind sharing with us once again?
Sure. Again, at www.boldparenting.online is the best way to get a hold of the parenting resources. I am Jason at anxietycenterkc.com, Jason at anxietycenter.com if you wanted to reach out directly to me. And that's the best ways to get a hold of us and find out about us.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it as always, and hope you have a fantastic, happy, and healthy weekend. Best of luck to you and your family.
Thanks, Jill.